And a wonderful good evening to you from the KXAN Live studios. I'm Billy Gates, and this is Nick's First Warning. And here with me, of course, is the man of the hour, Nick Van, and there he is.
You build me up too much,
Hey,
Billy.
Nick.
I
don't build you up enough.
Oh, no.
I don't build you up enough, Nick, okay?
How's everyone doing tonight?
It was a very pleasant day today. I was out at the UT baseball game earlier doing my sports job. It's kind of, I kind of moonlight as a live host for us here, but it was pretty brisk at the baseball game, but it was still very nice.
Yeah, the sun's really helpful, and less wind today really made a difference.
All right, well, enough chit chat. Let's get to it. You're here to talk about severe weather season, which is coming right around the corner.
Yes, so we want to talk about the severe weather potential here. Because March 1st, which is less than 2 weeks away now, I think by my math it's about 12 days away, is technically the beginning of severe weather season here in Central Texas. So it begins in March. On average, storms increase in frequency and potentially intensity with each passing week that we head through March and April. Storms typically peak in their frequency in May. Severe weather peaks, therefore, in May for us. That is usually our busiest, most active month. It's also usually our wettest month of the year. We'll talk about that here in a bit. And then we usually get a quick drop-off in severe weather and storms in general by early to mid-June. And then we enter that just really hot and dry period as we head through the summer months, Billy.
Nice. It's kind of old hat for Central Texans. I mean, they kind of know this coming. This is more for like the new folks in town that maybe aren't familiar with the wild weather that happens here every spring and in early summer.
Yeah, but for those new folks, if we could pop up the blog that I posted a little bit ago,
sure. Hang on.
It could sort of explain exactly how we come to this conclusion about the severe weather peaking in May and how things ramp up. So this is a look at the blog, but more specifically, the images within the blog are climatology from the Storm Prediction Center about typical severe weather instances, that is, large hail, damaging winds, or tornadoes, on a week-by-week basis heading through the year. And if you could take this full screen there, Billy, perhaps, this is actually in early March, from what I can tell, with the small writing here. But what you're going to see is as we scroll down through the month of March, and then we're getting into April, and then eventually May, the severe weather potential starts to spread more to the west and to Texas, if we keep scrolling there, Billy. And there you go. I love that.
It's trying to get it bigger.
Big screen. Perfect. So you can see and you can read the dates there, Billy. I know you've got a bigger monitor in front of you.
Yeah, this is April 1st right here.
April 1st. Okay, so you start seeing that the percentage chances of occurrence of severe weather during that period in April start to go up. And then as we keep scrolling through the month of April, start seeing some of those darker colors. That means those percentage chances are higher. That's what, mid-April.
This is April 15th, correct? 2 weeks out from April 1st.
So April things really ramp up for us. And then we continue through late April. I think that's the last couple of days there of April. Severe weather mostly focused over Oklahoma and North Texas, but we start seeing more storms here too. And then we get into May, and that is when our severe weather instances peak, meaning on any given day, the chances of severe weather are the highest that they get of any day in the year, in the month there of May. And as we continue through the month of May, that's early May, and now we're heading toward the middle of May, then those chances are about as high as they can get. Of course, they're higher farther north of us, closer to what was once known as Tornado Alley, which, as we've been talking about over the past couple of years, has started to shift a little bit, but certainly Oklahoma and the majority of the Midwest get their share of severe weather, even more than we do here in Central Texas. But as we continue going on toward late May and then into early June now,
June 10th is this chart right here.
things start retracting a little bit to the north, and then our severe weather instances start to fade as the upper Midwest then starts to get in on it a little bit more. So that's how we come to the conclusion about when the severe weather season sort of begins and when it starts to ramp up a little bit more, and then when it finally starts to fade. So early to mid-June, we start seeing the majority of severe weather instances creep north of us again, and then also farther closer to the East Coast too. And then we see our number of severe weather instances, based typically just on the past, going down.
And then, obviously, severe weather, we're talking damaging winds, hail, thunder, lightning, tornadoes, like all of that stuff is kind of packed into what we call severe weather. And there's another thing that doesn't really get lumped into severe weather, but flash flooding as well is a huge concern.
Yeah, all of those things are important for us. For a storm to be severe, you need hail 1 inch in diameter or greater. You need 58 mile per hour gusts or stronger, or you need a tornado. Let's talk about the peak of each of those severe weather instances. The hail risk, actually climatologically speaking, peaks in early May. The tornado risk, based purely on climatology, peaks in the middle of May. And then our wind damage threat peaks usually late in the month of May. Now, for those of you new to the area, or nice to get a refresher because we haven't had a lot of severe weather lately, during severe thunderstorms, especially the ones with the hail and damaging winds, very much indoors is your safest place to be and away from windows. The windows can get blown out from either hail that gets blown into them or objects that get blown by damaging winds. Avoiding electrical appliances is a good idea. Avoiding using plumbing and showering and having a bath, that sort of thing during that is a good idea as well. Specifically for a tornado, you certainly want to follow those steps, but you need to be even more proactive about where you are and where you are in your home. Just away from windows is not usually good enough. You want to put as many walls in between you and the outside as you possibly can. Especially those rooms that don't have windows is a good place to be. So avoiding those exterior rooms, interior rooms, and the lowest level of your home are the best there. And then preparing for severe weather, we want you to have ways to stay informed, because the onus is on you to have the ability to be reached by all of these alerts that the National Weather Service puts out and that we relay to you through the KXAN Weather app. There's plenty of other apps out there too. We're partial to that one. We have our news app, and then in prolonged severe weather, we would have live severe weather coverage streaming on our app, Facebook, KXAN as well for prolonged tornado coverage, that sort of thing. So we want you to stay weather aware, because you still have to be somewhat active to make sure that you are able to get the severe weather information. But Billy, you alluded to this, and it took me a couple of minutes to get there, but we're also talking about flash flooding here too. We mentioned severe weather is hail, wind, or a tornado. So technically, flash flooding does not get a severe thunderstorm warning. It does not get a tornado warning. It gets its own category there of warnings, and flash flood warnings usually cover that. But this is a map of deadly flooding locations in the United States and instances of deaths from flooding, or more particularly flash flooding. And what you'll see out of all the United States, as we zoom in here into central Texas, we have the highest instances of deaths from flash flooding of anywhere in the country. We are known as Flash Flood Alley. It's a combination of the geography, the topography here, also how much our soil is able to absorb from particularly significant heavy rain that comes in thanks to the moisture we get off the Gulf. A number of reasons that promote flash flooding here in central Texas and our ability to not deal with it as well as we would like to. So unfortunately, it is a deadly danger for us here in central Texas, and one that we have to take seriously as well. So when we start talking about flash flooding season, it's actually slightly different to severe weather season, which begins in March. It begins March 1st, as we mentioned. Flash flooding season, there's technically two of them. April, May, and June, thanks to the thunderstorms that we get. And the thunderstorms April, May, and June don't usually move as quickly as the ones we get in March. That's why the flash flooding season doesn't necessarily begin in March. Of course, we can get flash flooding at any point of the year, but as we look at climatology, when we typically get more flash flooding, it's our primary flash flooding season, April through June, here in Central Texas. The peak of flash flooding season is in May, just like the peak of severe weather season is in May. May is also usually our wettest month by far of all the months here in Central Texas. But we do get a second flash flooding season here, and that's from August through October. That's usually flash flooding caused by tropical systems, Billy.
So yeah, a couple weeks away from the start of severe weather season, and obviously this isn't made to scare folks. Like this is just information for you to so you can be prepared. Like what Nick said earlier about downloading our KXAN weather app and our KXAN news app. That's how Nick and the rest of the First Warning Weather team are going to be able to get a hold of you. Going to be able to get in touch with you, relay that information in the case of a severe storm, a potential tornado, any storms that deal with damaging hail or anything. We just want you to have the most information you can so you can prepare for it, and we want to keep you safe.
Yeah, and flash flooding and severe weather, it's going to come and go on and off throughout the year, but this is the time of year, especially when we see that it occurs more frequently, and given that we're 2 weeks away now, or less than that, from the beginning of severe weather season, we thought it would be a prudent reminder to remind you that we are almost at that time of year where severe weather becomes more common, and we would like you to stay as informed and safe as you possibly can, and make sure you're proactive about finding out weather information, not just when you're at home, but when you're traveling and on the go. You want to make sure that you can get the necessary alerts to keep you safe, because the last thing we want to hear is, oh, I didn't know it was coming, right. Oh, I didn't know it was going to be that bad, that sort of thing, especially for severe weather instances that aren't a surprise. Sometimes they are, but many of them we get a good heads up that one particular day over another is going to get more dangerous.
Yeah, and we will go over maybe put together some sort of like maybe like a go pack or emergency kind of supplies. Kristen Curry is very good about doing this whenever we get close to severe weather season. She loves to remind folks about what they need to put in their emergency supplies and things like that. So all that information will be coming for sure once we get closer to kind of showtime, as it were.
Yeah, I've actually got a couple more graphics that one of them includes that sort of thing when it comes to flash flooding. So as far as prepping before flash flooding were to occur, and these would be things that we would remind you leading up to events where we're more likely to see flash flooding. Bringing in patio furniture, unplugging outdoor appliances, an emergency kit. You can get that ready now. Flashlight, first aid, batteries, having any medicine ready to go in that sort of go bag just in case you needed to evacuate, alerting your neighbors and family about any flash flooding that you know about so that they stay informed as well, and then avoiding travel in heavy rain is always a good idea just because it's difficult. And then during flash flooding, say a flash flood warning is issued for where you are, those are the types of warnings that would wake you up in the middle of the night. That's the Wireless Emergency Alert, or WEA, system that is integrated into your phones unless you've purposefully turned it off. During a flash flood warning, want to never drive through flooded roadways, even if you think that puddle is shallow enough that you can get your car through it and over to the other side. You just don't know how fast that water is moving, how deep it is. So turn around, don't drown is the phrase that's easy to remember, and we'll be mentioning it a lot. Staying where you are is usually the best thing to do, staying in your house. Not venturing out unless you're told by authorities to evacuate. And of course, if you live near creeks and streams, you want to keep an eye on those just in case they start to rise up quickly. But yes, Billy, there are tons more preparation ideas that we'll be passing along when we get into severe weather season, and before and during severe weather that we'll be able to give you here during the particular moment. But we figured less than 2 weeks to go. Let's give it a reminder that severe weather season's almost here.
Yep, and safety is our number one concern. So there you go. There's your first kind of refresher, if you will, about the severe weather season that's coming up. Officially starts March 1st, and then takes us through May and into June.
Absolutely, and then we just start talking about heat.
Oh, everyone loves the heat here. It's either the freezing cold or just the awful heat, right? Like there's no really like in between.
The thing about severe weather season, though, Billy, is it is a necessary evil in a way. We really need the rain that we get from the spring to carry us through those hotter and drier summer months. We would love to get that type of rain without severe weather and without flash flooding, but typically they come together. So we need this rain. We can't forget about that, but it does come with the risks, and that's what we want to give people the advance notice about and keep them safe with.
All right, Nick. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate all this useful and pertinent information as we get closer to the big storms that may come our way here in Central Texas. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Nick's First Warning. For Nick Bannon, I'm Billy Gates, and we thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk to you again very soon.